those are buildings that are particularly targeted because they see kids of other faiths as being, boy, we got to get to them. So those might be good folks to approach. Even, for example, Catholics whose kids are in the public schools, because the evangelism that these folks are preaching do not follow the Catholic standards at all. And actually, in some of them, if you read Catherine's book, and I don't have it with me tonight because I loaned it to someone, in Catherine's book she talks about how they tell these kids that unless, in these kindergartners, unless they get a buddy or a little friend of theirs and bring them in and get them to proclaim Jesus Christ as their personal Savior, they're going to go to hell, and their parents are going to go to hell, and they scare the crap out of them. Anyway, so that's not something that goes along with Catholic, at least mainstream Catholic belief. And Catholics do not like, they have a knee-jerk reaction, believe me, against someone teaching their children non-Catholic doctrine. The Catholic Bible's different. The Catholic Ten Commandments are different. The Catholic Our Father is different. So you have all these different little things, and if you can get to those parents, you can make some hay with them and get them to understand that, this ain't just reading Bible stories. This is threatening to them as parents and their rights to teach their children their religion. They're going to be sending these kids to CCD in the afternoon, and they're going to learn a totally different thing than they're learning at this club. So they can sometimes be allies, depending. So you need to look for currently existing groups. And these are some of the ideas that you can use. Brainstorm community outreach, who's going to support them, how are we going to reach out to others. I would caution you against trying to get a large group and having a big group meeting. That's generally not only very difficult, but it attracts the other side. You want to keep, unfortunately, to fight the stealth evangelism, you've got to do a little stealth organizing. So you want to make sure that the audience that you're reaching is the audience that is going to help you and not work against you. You want to solve these problems at the lowest possible level. It didn't used to be as bad as it is today, but today, if there's even a hint that what you're doing is, they can call anti-religion, there's going to be an army out there against you. So you need to be very careful about what it is that you do. So you continue on, that's your second step, is community outreach, and joining an existing group is very important. And there's some that are listed, PTAs now. Yes?
Question. So, my wife and I are involved with the New Jersey Humanist Network.
Yes.
And so you're saying that if we were to, make it known that our group was involved in this effort, it might be bad publicity because we're atheists.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would not put that label on it. I would instead form a coalition of people with lots of different affiliations. Maybe there are people from AU, that maybe there are people, people who are members of NOW, maybe there are people who are, just progressive, liberal folks. This particular group in the Westchester School District happens to be Democratic, little subgroup of the County Democratic Party. So, those are the kinds of places that you would look. And then you would form kind of like a new organization that wouldn't have any of those names on it. Because that's dangerous. Sorry?
Concerned citizens or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, concerned citizens. There's concerned citizens for everything from... You're right. But it's good sound. It sounds good, right? Okay, so then... I'm sorry?
You're getting with them. Concerned citizens just raises the hair up on the back of my neck.
Oh, I know, me too, because most of the time they were...
concerned about things.
Yes. Oh, yes.
But I had to break it. But all this presuppose that the you keep talking about are intimately involved. That your child is at the school,
No.
So how do you get to say, hey, look, this is what's going on there, with any validity, because you've never been to.
Okay. So first of all, the people who are involved, for example, in this group, in the Westchester group that I'm working with, we have 3 people who actually have children in the schools. Only one of them has a child in the elementary school. The others are in the middle school now. We have 2 people who are old hippies like me who just want to make sure that You know, we're
Public
not getting
education.
sucked into these things, and we have free education. We have retired teachers, we have active teachers, and we have a couple people who are just idealistic, wonderful folks who are willing to help. We have some college students from university, so, but they came together basically through knowing somebody else and all that, and being turned on by the subject. I don't really know, but there's
not
probably
having,
12.
but having actual experience of their children being proselytized to on the playground,
One.
or
Yeah, the one woman who has a child right now in elementary school, yes. But the one that has the 2 children in middle school, those 2 children, we got to know her through the Amnion process. So now she's really interested also in working on this. But school buildings, even in a large city, school buildings are small communities, relatively small communities, especially at the elementary level. So if you have folks who have children or had children in the public schools in a particular community, you're going to be able to reach out to others of like mind in your community. And sometimes you have to sit down with the people who are interested in doing it and saying, and give them, you know, cues. Well, now, who do you know from this street? Do you know anybody with kids in this grade? And then, you know, they start clicking, oh yeah, I know this person, you know. So that's kind of how we sat down. We actually sat down with voter lists and looked at street by street to pull out some folks that just to remind us who they were. I can't remember, you know, people that I knew from when my kids were in elementary school. But it's possible. It's not only possible. It's the only way that works, because then you have to have people contact those folks. If you put out a notice that says parents opposed to this, come to the meeting, you're gonna have an empty room. But if you do one-on-one, it's the only way that works, and it does work. You know, you may not get as many right away, but it will eventually start working. Yes.
This may have been addressed in the books. I haven't read the whole book. I just skimmed a little bit. But it seems to me that an easier battle versus just banning a club can be very difficult. It's like that's discrimination, and
That's
a
right.
group can feel like they're being discriminated
That's
against
right.
without justification. But it seems like an easier battle to make sure that they're not stealth, that they're out front.
Exactly
They're
right.
out front about what exactly they could even insist they put the word fundamentalist if they're using a fundamentalist philosophy. And a lot of parents are not even though
That's
they're
right.
Christian, they're not fundamentalists.
That's right.
They won't.
You hit on it exactly. So when you're looking at this particular issue, that's why we're saying you do not want to just file a case or you know, try to get the club banned, because right away many people, myself included, having had children at the high school level where there was a lot of freedom to have all different kinds of clubs, and I supported that idea that students could initiate their own clubs, etc. You don't want to do something that's going to end up blocking all clubs. So what you have to do is you have to get down to the point of what it is you're really trying to accomplish. And that brings us exactly to this page, which is create an action plan. Because the very first thing you need to do is to set a goal. And that goal has to be small. And you've heard this a million times. You've heard it at your workplaces. You're like, oh, goals. But you need to set a first goal. And your first goal has to be something that you really want to do, but that is achievable. So, for example, you just said one of the things that you first think about, and one of the things that people do think about first of all when they get into this is, let's get this club banned, okay? And then you talk about that. Why is that good? Why is that bad? And one of the things that this suggests is that when you plan the action, you're going to look at who stands on the other side. You see the third thing down, opposition, and who will attempt to work against you, and how will you deal with them, and then you're also going to talk about what you don't want to have happen. Okay, so I make people think about what you do want to have happen and what you don't want to have happen. What you don't want to have happen is a backlash, a big organized backlash. So then So then everything that you do has to be focused on getting to what you do want to have happen, and you have to evaluate every step based on making sure it's not going to cause what you don't want to have happen.
Even,
Okay.
But sometimes a backlash can be worth it if you win in the end. But you don't want to have a backlash and also lose.
That's right. And unfortunately, in
The
today's
losing backlash.
climate, one of the things that frequently happens, especially at the school board level, is that you have people running for school board with that axe to grind, saying they're going to get these rabble rousers out, and they're going to put these Jesus clubs back in, and the hell with everything else. You know, so that's the kind of backlash that you don't want to have happen. That discussion is so important. I cannot tell you how important it is, because things come up that people have never thought about before. And then as soon as they talk about it, they go, oh my God, of course that's what will happen if we do that. So, and I don't know what the politically correct term for it now is, but there is what I was told was a Confucian saying, but it is, never take your eyes from your target, not even long enough to glance at your enemy. So if you're moving to your target, you don't want to worry about what they're doing. You don't want to do something that's just going to cause agitation over here that's not going to move you. If it's going to move you this way instead of to your target, don't do it. And so the way to focus on that is to think about what you want as a goal. So if your goal is not to have this club have 50 students enrolled anymore, or to minimize its influence on children, or to cause it to have to dissolve, or whatever it is, then everything you do has to be focused on doing that, and not on peripheral stuff that's just going to raise whatever. Now, that's not to say that you don't do peripheral stuff. If the peripheral stuff is going to get you to your goal, absolutely, but you have to think about it, and you have to agree on it as a group, because you're going to have people going, ba-ding, ba-dong, ba-ding, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to shoot the superintendent, I want to, you know. You're going to have all kinds of ideas out there, and you need to have consensus from the group as to what it is that's valuable enough for the group to undertake. When you have that, you will not have dissension that's going to cause you serious problems. Not that everybody will agree on every action, but you have to have consensus on what the goal is, and the fact that you're not going to allow folks to go off and do whatever they want without bringing it back to the group and getting group consensus around that activity. That kind of concerted effort, that kind of concerted movement and work is extremely enjoyable. When you accomplish even your very first step, the group gets energized by that. So even if it's not something that everybody agreed to, if it works and moves you a little bit, the group will get energy from it, and you'll be able to move forward. But it's extremely important to stay together. That's the kind of leadership, I think, that that I know that there are people in this organization that can help you with if you're interested in working on a group like that. So the rest of this little action plan you'll see is pretty simple. You decide on activities, you name your activists, and you set up a next meeting date once you get a group of people together to discuss this. And it could be 3 people. You know, you may have 3 people who want to tackle this subject. You go through this. Just, you know, what do we want to do? We want to get 12 people to work on this. Fine, that's your first goal. Okay, we'll work with 10, but we'd like to get 12. Where would they be from? They'd be from 4 different elementary schools or whatever. So you do little steps. You set those steps up and you get moving. If you don't do it today, then tomorrow it's just going to be an extra day that you're going to have to do it. I mean, you know, you got to start somewhere. The last piece is the coalition building, just some more specifics about that. Once you get a small group together, what some of the things that you can do, one of the important things to do is build coalitions. And that is go to groups that they know. If you have 3 people in a room, those 3 people will probably each know 3 or 4 different groups. Even if it's just my neighborhood, that's still a group. My family, my you know, aunts and uncles or whatever. The Girl Scouts I hang out at, the group that I'm with, or whatever it is. Everyone knows a group, and just sit down and identify your groups, and then go through. Okay, who's in that? Would they be in favor? You work it that way so that you identify folks who are like-minded. And then the last piece also is research, and that is who are the elected officials in my community that that can help me or hurt me, and you need to identify them. One of the things that I absolutely insist on is getting to know the school board members, not personally, not going out for lunch with them, but what's their name, where are they from, where do they work, what's their church affiliation if they have one, what are they like, what have they said, what have they done that makes us, because there's 9 school board members, you need 5. You don't need all 9, you need 5 to vote the way you want them. So you need to find out information about those folks. And when you do that, it's very empowering, because that school board, as a school board, looks like, they're all just up there and they sound like they know what they're talking about and they know it, but they sound like it. And if you get to know them and you're like, well, heck, that schmuck's just, he went to that high school, he doesn't know squat. You get that, you personalize them, you understand who they are, it's great. He's married to her? Oh, I know her, I know that, I know that whole story. It personalizes them, it helps you to approach those folks and get that, get a feeling for them. It also gives you avenues that you can approach them. Now, I am never, and I would never, and I will never participate in using information that we know about them to hang it over their heads. That is not what I'm talking about. I would never do that. But you do want to know, do they work for, some corporation that's making tons of money off the school? What is about them? Why did they run for school board? What's their axe? Do they have an axe? Are they truly just interested in children? So there's a lot of things that you can find out from that. And how many do you need? You need 5 people. You need to influence 5 people in the long run. So that work is critical. And it's critical to know how those folks, what power they have in the district. Look at what committees they're on. Every school board member is assigned to committees. We spent, in Downingtown where we attacked this Amiens thing, we spent more time in the curriculum committee than we did at the school board. Because that, we realized, was where pay dirt was. Because that was what was being violated when they brought it in. So we were able to get it out by showing that they had violated the school board's curriculum rules. Yes, sir. Sorry.
I think you answered my question already, so never mind.
I'm sorry. That kind of research is critical, and it's stuff that's accessible, it's not hard to find out, and it's doable. And these are the ways that you can make the most of situations. Basically out of time, but I can tell you that in the case where we were able to get this group out of the high school, we did it by approaching the principal first, found out that the principal didn't know that they were who they were or why they were there. They got into that school in a stealth way. They got in by identifying a teacher in that school building that was a member of one of their churches, and getting that person convinced that it was, that if she didn't do this, she was doomed. And
Or her children, the students were doomed.
no, she personally would go to hell if she didn't allow them to get in there and talk to these kids, and her kids, and the students too. And then, she was a nurse in the school. So they got in through her. They got her to insist that this had to be done in the classroom. So we worked that angle, and we showed the principal that this was not approved by the school board, that he was violating board policy and curriculum, he was violating the teacher's contract, And he was like, oh crap, I'm in deep doo-doo. And we said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give, this is what we want. This is our next step. If we don't see any movement in a certain amount of time, then we go to this step. And we got it settled. And we got them out of there. And they are probably still plotting little ways to get back in, but at least the parents are aware of who they are and what they're about. This gentleman talked about educating the parents. That's what we're doing in Westchester. We're working with parent groups that we know have interest in making sure their children get the right kind of education, either in their own religion or in no religion, and we're making sure they know what the story is. So that's one of the projects, but that's just a piece. We're doing a whole lot of other stuff in Westchester to work on that issue. So now questions. We don't have to. Yes.
Can I ask, this situation in Westchester, what is your goal?
Our goal there is to minimize the effect of the Good News Clubs.
So
Okay,
you
so-
want, your goal is to make sure that the parents know what kind of program the children are getting involved in.
That's one.
Or getting
And
asked to get involved.
that's one piece. The other piece is to make sure that that the club is treated the same way as all other clubs. Because all other clubs rules at the elementary level are different from rules at the high school levels, middle school and high school levels for clubs. Generally speaking, they ain't after-school clubs in elementary school.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, so elementary school, if there is a club, it has to be led by a teacher. Okay, so that's one angle. The other is, are they paying their fair share? Because outside clubs have to pay to use the schools. And if
Because
one,
of the
if
lights,
the Boy
the
Scouts have to,
janitor.
sure, if the Boy Scouts are paying, they have to pay.
Okay.
So what we're finding is there are those little inequalities. Now, will that totally win at Force? We don't know. But, you know, hopefully by working those angles and at the same time enlightening the parents as to what's happening, you know, we will have some success. One of our big things that we're looking for is something that Ed and Janice, I think, found, and that from Catherine Stewart, who wrote the book. She was able to get her hands on a teaching guide for the people that are teaching this. And that's going to be invaluable because that's good evidence about what it is that their whole mission is really about. And I think some parents would be upset by that.
Yeah, this is, regarding the Good News Club, this is a really tough nut to crack. We've been thinking about this for a long time. Groups who have tried to remove Good News Clubs from schools have been sued, and the Good News Club has remained. And it seems that really the most viable way of moving forward with this is, as has been suggested, is to educate parents, let parents know what is being presented to their kids, and then if nobody shows up, then the Good News Club has to shut down.
Sure.
But it's
And if 2 kids show up, hey, yeah, those are 2 kids that probably.
yeah, and again, it's a tough nut to crack. Americans
Absolutely.
United
It's
National
very
in Washington has washed their hands of this because it's hard to get any traction with it.
Yeah.
There's no consideration about, we'll start our own club, the philosophy club
Oh, yes,
for
absolutely.
small
Yep.
children.
They have been thinking about that in Westchester.
Or science.
Yeah.
We tend to believe in science, but not really.
Yeah.
I think you need
The
something
bad news
other
club.
than science club.
The real news club.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's another way they're thinking of going, because in 2, I don't know about the 3rd yet, but in 2 of the elementary schools that we're focusing on, there are no other clubs.
Oh.
Yeah, but there are after-school organizations like the Scouts, but it's not considered a club. So there's not really any rules in the school buildings for clubs. Now that's one of the weaknesses for elementary schools that you might be able to, that we're hoping to exploit.
So then one of the problems is that if it has to be led by a teacher, any teacher who wants to, even at the college level, teachers who want to sponsor any kind of.
No, it has to be by a teacher from that school.
Right, any teacher who faces comments like, I think this would be a bad career move for you. That's what the Secular Student Alliance has found in both colleges and high schools. If you decide to sponsor this club, I think it could be a really bad career move for you.
Yes,
So
but
teachers
unfortunately,
need
the
support.
opposite's also true. A teacher who sponsors or who works against it can also have a lot of backlash.
So the
That's
teachers
much
need-
more at the school district level than at the college, I'm sorry.
So another goal is to provide teacher support.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we are working through with the union on this, because we don't want to put, the union is bargaining a contract. They can't afford to lose 5 votes. They need to make sure that they're not rocking the boat too much. They were wonderful. Oh my God, we did such cool things with the Help of the Teachers Union in Downingtown. But it was subterfuge stuff. We got them to do a report on the fact that they weren't included in these curriculum discussions, to document that. and to point out that they already were teaching relationship education, and they were already teaching all different forms of relationship, dealing with relationships, everything from abstinence as a possible choice up through every kind of birth control information and knowledge and teaching about it, which was part of the curriculum. So, you know, they were very helpful without being out front there and putting their own themselves at risk.
Two kind of question comments. First off, which schools specifically are these? The elementary schools?
Okay, one is Glen Acres, one is Fern Hill,
No.
yeah, and one is, the other one is
It shudders.
out for, it's one of the newer ones, it's out down on 202, Sarah something.
Yeah.
Sarah
I should join an organization.
Sarah Starkweather, yeah.
I like Fern Hill.
Yeah, Fern Hill's
And
nice.
they do have other after-school programs.
They do, but they're not clubs. They have music. You know, sometimes they have chorus. They have Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. They have the YMCA comes in and does after-school programs, but they don't have.
I mentored there.
Okay,
in
what did they?
The Mindstorms Lego League.
Yes, they. Well, where was that?
That was in Fern Hill.
Yeah, at Fern Hill, but not all of them have clubs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was curious.
Yeah.
Do you know like which high schools?
So that's
and middle
probably the
schools?
one we don't have. What, high schools? No.
Those are middle
Well,
schools.
they were. There's not that many in Westchester. So I know because my sister's daughter was in the school, and it was starting with half. Fugit Middle School.
Man, they went to all of my schools. Okay, so
Yeah, they're
I
pretty
might be getting
indiscriminate like
into
that.
So Fran,
Oh,
Good.
wait, but my other actual comment.
go
Sorry.
ahead, no, go ahead.
It was they had a guy named Catherine. She already got one of the plans,
Yes, she
like
got a little.
the grand like 300-page.
I don't know. I didn't see it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either, but
So
she
I-
has it. She has it.
I've read like a chunk of her book already,
Mhm.
and those are like a comprehensive thing that go from the higher ups to completely do the whole. Can we just get that to everyone? Turn it into a
We're-
PDF and just
yeah,
email it to everyone?
I don't think it's available
It's
just
like-
online. As
We could
an
go to
open
the
I've at least
document.
seen online in New Jersey, there's a PDF on just how to start a club.
Well, I mean, like
And
that
that's basic.
like large book, you can just go to like a printing shop and just say, could you scan this and make it into a PDF?
I don't know if it's
And-
copyrighted. No, they won't do it.
Right.
But that's the thing though, what I was curious about is when in the actual districts, or I guess probably at the building level, do people have to show all of club paperwork
Yeah, they
to
do.
the actual people?
I
Absolutely.
think
See,
we
those
give
are all
So-
things that you have to look for.
I say we give it
because
to
if that's a
anonymous.
rule, then Good News Clubs are required to give the plan.
Yep.
And then if it's required by the school, they can give all of the parents that plan.
They have to, yeah.
You can
So
read
those are
Freedom
all the
of
little things
Information.
that you need to find out. I'm sorry.
You could do a Freedom of Information Act
Absolutely.
request at
See,
that point.
what they don't realize is that there are a lot of rules, state law, that are going to force them to open their books.
Right.
And some of them may rebel just because they don't want to do that. They want to have an after-school religious club, go have it at the church down the street. Don't have it here. Let the kids walk there.
Bring
But they
them- bring them
specifically do not want to take it out of the school. Why? Because the school gives it legitimacy.
Yes.
I have a couple of examples of that I'm aware of. This is one. This is the latest issue of Free Thought Today. Basically, atheist agnostic.